Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I'm Gilles Gallant. I'm joined by the one and only Brandon Anderson, NFL betting expert and futures GOAT here with Action Network. Today, we are going to kick off what we're calling Rankings Week here at Action Network. Now, Brandon, as preparation for the NFL season, this is an exercise that you do every year just to get prepared. We're in August. The upcoming season is starting. You'll study everything and rank pretty much everything. And this year, we're going to do it all together on the podcast, accompanied with your written articles at actionnetwork.com. We're going to rank the coaches, offensive lines, skill position groups, offenses, defenses. But really, we got to start with the big kahunas here. Most important position in professional sports, in my opinion, and that is the NFL quarterback. So that is where we start today, and we're going to dive into and rank all 32 starting quarterbacks across the NFL. Now, Brandon, you have very specific criteria that you like to use with your rankings. So can you explain to us how you compile those rankings, and what kind of criteria are you using? Is it contract? Is it to win the Super Bowl? Is it long-term potential? Tell us.
Yeah, really, it's just one simple question if you whittle it down. If I want a quarterback that's going to help my team win a Super Bowl this season, who do I want? That's it. Who do I want to win a Super Bowl right now? So no contract, no long-term potential. Immediate potential does matter. Where can I get you to by January? That matters. Health does matter because I'm getting you as whatever package you're coming in as right now. I will say we are recording this Friday for release on Monday. There's a weekend of preseason in between. So if health happened in between, that part didn't matter, but otherwise does matter here. And of course, the hard part, but the interesting part, is trying to kind of parse out team situation, blocking, coaching, play calling. The idea is if you're starting a new team for this season and I get a guy, who do I want to build my team around? And that's contentious, of course. That's why it's hashtag content, because, we get to argue about it because we don't know. I agree, it is the most important position in team sports and has an outsized impact on winning at every level, but it's still a team game. So that's the fun of it. That's the argument. I always do all of these rankings in tiers. So we'll have that as we do each different podcast here. The goal of the tier is basically, if there's a tier of 3 names or teams, I can pretty much argue any order on those. You could talk me into just slightly shifting them around. But once I get down to the next tier, those are below. Once I drop to a tier below, I should not be able to put those names up above. So that's the goal here today. And, to provide some content and probably piss off some people with their quarterback rankings. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's start some fires. Let's get some chaos going. But that being said, there won't be much chaos, I believe, at the top of the rankings, because I think a lot of that is consensus, just where we are in the NFL today. So let's get into those rankings. As Brandon said, we're going to go by tiers. We're going to start at the top. We're going to go through every quarterback, 1 through 32. And at the top of the list, it's pretty obvious. This tier 1, there are 2 quarterbacks in this list. This is a tier that Brandon has called the Unimbeachables. And at number 1, we have Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs. At number 2, Josh Allen, reigning NFL MVP. So quickly, how did you think a lot about whether or not Mahomes should be at number 1 for the 7th consecutive season, or was there just not much thought at all? We're putting it, that's the placeholder.
Yeah, not really much thought needed here. It is, I've done this now for a decade. This is 7 straight years. Basically, once he became a starter and we got 1 year of data, he became number 1. He's actually, I believe, never shared the top tier before. So this is a slight slip or maybe slight rise from Allen here. The thing with Mahomes is 7 seasons, 7 AFC championship games. I mean, what else do you need to know? Quarterback wins are not a thing in the short term. Long term, quarterback wins are a thing. There's a reason that we know who the guys are that win all the stuff, and that's how we keep track of them at the top. Mahomes has won with bad blocking. He's won without great receivers. He's won with bad defense. He's won with kind of bad play calling or contentious offensive coordinator. All the things that bring other quarterbacks down, he just wins anyway. 89-23 lifetime in the regular season, 17-4 in the playoffs. We remember all the times he lost in the playoffs because there's only 4 of them. So I know the numbers are a little down the last 2 seasons in the regular season. If your 2 down years are 25 wins and 6 playoff wins with bad blocking and bad receivers, you're number 1. It's Mahomes.
Okay, so you brought up that point though, that where Mahomes had kind of elevated above the remainder of quarterbacks, where he was in a tier of his own. This year now you have Josh Allen sharing that tier. And so it's just a very simple question. Why did we have Josh Allen now on the same level of Patrick Mahomes? And what does he have to do to even pass him at this point? Like win another MVP, win Super Bowl? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think honestly, if you could kind of ignore history and only the goal is just pick a quarterback for right now this year. I think if you were doing that genuinely, you could make a pretty good case that Allen should probably be number one or at least 1A here based on all the data we have from just the last couple of years. He's clearly ranked ahead of Mahomes. Mahomes is just invincible until proven otherwise. So I think Mahomes has to lose the one spot. But Allen really, I don't think there's a case against him anymore. The big mistakes, he's cut those down. His sack rate is just crazy low, 2.8% last season. He cut down the interceptions a lot. His turnover-worthy plays are down. His playoffs, that's the other big thing levied against him. 7-6 in the playoffs. It's not great. 32 touchdowns he's been responsible for in those 13 games, 4 interceptions. He's at a pace over those playoff games for 4,400 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 5 picks. That's an MVP year. He just keeps having bad luck and, frankly, bad defense. He has, so far since 2000, the best EPA per play of any quarterback in the league in playoff losses. He just also has the worst defense by EPA per play in those games. He's had the Chiefs game, the 13 seconds, of course. Tyler Bass missed the field goal. We had a Diggs drop. We had a Kincaid drop. And I know you got to overcome all those things, but he ranks number one all time in yards per game in the playoffs, touchdowns per game, and touchdowns per turnover. He's been great. He's as good as anybody. There's no case against Allen anymore. Just Mahomes is unimpeachable at one.
I do find it interesting, too, that both of those quarterbacks with losses, obviously, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, and in the AFC Championship game, neither of those losses really, in my opinion, downgraded their resume. Like, I think if anything, they're still firmly entrenched at those top 2 spots. So that's tier 1 for the NFL quarterback rankings. Let's move now to tier 2. And this one, you had mentioned it before, you're probably going to piss some people off with the way that this is ranked. And so we have labeled this tier as this isn't an insult. So at number 3, you have Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. And at number 4, another AFC North quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Now, you talk about content. There's a ton of NFL rankings out there. Some have, Lamar maybe as the first quarterback, maybe in the top 3. And, I just want to mention this as somebody, I know you, I follow you on social media. You kind of give Lamar a lot of shit on social. I'm just saying it. You're pretty critical of him despite his accolades. So why isn't Lamar in that top tier for you?
Yeah, he is in a top tier of 4 for me. I think most have generally accepted him as in the top tier of 3. I think, honestly, it's a bit outlandish that he seems to be almost becoming the consensus number 1. If you look at all these different rankings that are out there, I think it's too soon for that. The difference here with Lamar, number 1, why is he moved up here? He is up. He was 7th in my rankings last year. I think I was too slow. I think I was wrong about that. I have to eat a little crow here. In the regular season, he has been as unimpeachable as anyone. All the numbers are there. I don't need to quote them. You know them all already. He was better last year, I thought, than he was the previous year when he won MVP. I did not think he should have won that MVP. I thought his numbers last year were deserving of MVP. He just also played in a season where Allen and Burrow, I thought, were deserving of MVP as well. So the criticisms on Lamar, he does have a lot of help around him. He's had great coaching his whole career. He's had great defense and special teams most of the time, great blocking, and on a lot of great run game. It's an elite system that does prop him up a lot. I think otherwise, the main thing is in those big games, in those playoff moments, if you are this level, if you are Mahomes Allen level, you have to deliver. Lamar is 3-5 in the playoffs. He's on pace in his playoff career for 21 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, if that was like a 17-game season. 61% completion. I know some of these are just raw numbers, but it's not great. 11% sack rate is really bad. That's a terrible number in the playoffs. 7 fumbles in 8 games. And I mentioned with Josh Allen, even in losses, how good he's been. Lamar Jackson, same stat. in losses, negative 0.13 EPA per play. It's bottom 10 among all quarterbacks this century. So, and in those games, remember with Allen, the defense was terrible. Baltimore's defense has been top 5 EPA per play. Here's the translation. When Josh Allen plays in the playoffs but loses, he's doing his job. The defense is letting the Bills down. The data tells us that when the Ravens lose in the playoffs, the Ravens defense is doing their job and Lamar Jackson is letting them down. And that is a huge difference. And if it comes down to one game I got to win, until I see Lamar win those big games, and I think he will. He's really good. I think he's going to win those games, but he hasn't yet. And I trust the 3 guys above him. But these 4 are so far ahead of everyone else.
Well, I mean, Lamar Jackson was all pro for a reason. The touchdown interception ratio was mind boggling. So I'm agreeing with you that he probably should have won MVP in 24 and Allen in 23. Instead, those 2 swapped. But it's Joe Burrow now, because Joe Burrow, they obviously, if you think of like 2 different quarterbacks, like they can't be any more different of Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow is that prototypical stand in the pocket quarterback, will take some hits, will take some sacks as well. I think that's a big critique of mine of Joe Burrow, is that in his 3 healthy seasons, he's top 5 in sacks every year because he'll stand there in the pocket, which has led to some injuries and nicks and stuff like that. I guess what I'm wondering is it a big gap for you between Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson? It really just wanted to know why we have Burrow over Lamar.
Yeah, certainly not a big gap. Again, with the tiers, it's small gaps between these guys. And if I'm being totally honest, in honor of content, I came into this process thinking, okay, how many names can I rank ahead of Lamar Jackson this year? How many can I come up with? Only 3, it turns out. And it was close to being only 2. I think most people now have Lamar ahead of Burrow. I thought Burrow, the way he played last year, finally lived up to the thing he's supposed to be to belong in this top 4. Very different quarterback than the top guys. It's all accuracy. It's touch. He doesn't have that arm strength to just do that way. It's the way he's reading the defense, the way he's making those plays. And I think, too, we often in the media, we discredit Joe Burrow. He's like, yeah, but look at those receivers. And we kind of count that as he's been in this amazing situation. No doubt Chase and Higgins are awesome. But they haven't had a lot of other help besides those 2. And I know that that's a big besides, but the receiver depth hasn't been great. The run game hasn't been great. I was never a big Joe Mixon guy. He's a pretty average sort of running back. The blocking has been abysmal. He has had terrible blocking through his entire career. Now, I think he's hurting that a little bit. He loves to get the shotgun. He's not great at managing the pocket. So he's not helping himself there, but he's not getting help. I don't think he's getting much help play calling. Again, maybe a little bit his fault as well. But I do think there's a big swing in context from Lamar getting a ton of help throughout his career and Burrow not that much. Here's a number from last year with Joe Burrow. Win probability added per game. So how much are you responsible? What percentage of the game are you responsible for helping your team get wins? Joe Burrow last season was at 36% win probability added per game. Here's the context for that number. Since 2007, that's the asterisk Patriots undefeated year. Since 2007, that is tied for the highest win probability added of any quarterback and any player in that stretch. Tied with Patrick Mahomes once, just ahead of that Tom Brady season, just ahead of Peyton Manning 2009, and importantly, double almost Lamar Jackson last year, who is not playing much worse. It's just he's getting way more help from the run game, from Derrick Henry, from the special teams and the defense and all those things. Lamar actually, by win probability added, his 2 MVP seasons are the 2 lowest MVP seasons by that metric in this span. So to me, this is trying to parse out context and team situation. I think Burrow is doing more in his spot than Lamar needs to do. But they're both amazing, and I like to watch them both play, and the AFC is a bloodbath because we're already at 4 AFC guys, and we're not even done yet.
I legit was going to mention that your top 4 are all from the AFC. I think it also is worth mentioning that Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, 2 of 3 quarterbacks last year to throw 40 or more touchdowns. And you could probably make the case that if you swapped rosters, if you put Joe Burrow on that Ravens team, they might have won the Super Bowl already. But again, that's That's a hypothetical. We won't go down that road. Instead, we're going to move to the third tier. So this is tier 3. This is now 3 quarterbacks where we titled this as good enough to win games on their own. And it's a little scary because I'm not sure if I feel like any of these guys are in the top 5, but this is what we do this for. So at number 5, we have Justin Herbert with the Los Angeles Chargers. Number 6, Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers. And number 7, Jayden Daniels, rookie of the year. We'll talk about Jayden Daniels here, but does it make you feel a little like iffy about quarterbacks and just where we're at from an overall quarterback standpoint that one of these guys is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? I'm just not sure if I can get there yet.
Yeah, I'm fully with you. We love our round numbers, and a top 5 feels like it means something to us. I don't think it really rankles us at all to call these 3 guys top 10 quarterback. Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Justin Herbert, top 10, I can get there. Even if you don't agree, you can at least get close enough. Jordan Love, sure. I'm not a big Love fan. Top 10, okay, I see where you're at. Top 5, that feels different. And I don't know if it's because these guys aren't there yet, or if it's just because those top 4 are so good. Like, I don't know if we've ever had a top 4 like this. We've certainly had stretches. We had Manning, Brady for years and years, Aaron Rodgers for a lot of that gap. Maybe this is just kind of short-term memory, but it does feel, if anything, this tier 5, 6, 7, I'd love to just leave it blank. Just leave me 3 blank spots, and then let's fill in names. And okay, Herbert, Love, Daniels at 8, 9, 10. Everybody feels great. Let's move on with life. But that's not how numbers work. Somebody has to be number 5. We don't really say much about Justin Herbert. He's number 5. Kind of boring to talk about at this point. I think he finally does deserve to be in this mix. He is only 27 this year. Feels like he's played a long time, but it's possible maybe he's still just hitting his ceiling now that he's in a better situation, except Rashawn Slater, star left tackle, out for the season. Maybe not a better situation, so we'll see how he holds up this year.
All right, Jayden Daniels, though, that's where I don't want to say I take exception to it. I'm just not sure if I'm ready to label him as a top 10 quarterback. And again, this is me. I'm not trying to give my Cowboys bias here. This is just genuinely when you look at the way that the final act of the season played out, where the final 6 games that the Commanders played to make that playoff push, they played backup quarterbacks or third string quarterbacks, and both playoff wins, both teams' defenses were just completely decimated, the Buccaneers and the Lions. And then, of course, we have to talk about the little bit of luck as well, like on 3rd down and 4th down efficiency. That doesn't feel sustainable to me. And now their top wide receiver is asking for a trade. This is very tricky for me. I'm not sure if I could agree with you on Jayden Daniels in the top 10, but just tell me, where are we at here on Jayden? Because you had him at 26 last year coming into the 2024 season. So that's the biggest jump between year-over-year rankings for you.
Yeah, it's tough because I've been burned by this sort of spot in the past. I came in with CJ Stroud coming in hot, top 10, and then was not a top 10 quarterback last year. I remember with Trevor Lawrence, not after his rookie year, but after the next year. Okay, he's looking great. We made it. And we kind of think with these young guys, okay, we saw something good. Now you'll even be better. Growth isn't always linear, so it's not necessarily guarantee that this is where Jayden Daniels goes. But I think on the other hand, if you just go by the numbers, if you just go by what we saw last year with the data we have, I think you can make a pretty strong case Daniels should be number 5 and maybe even in the tier or approaching the tier or in his own, like above the rest of these guys, closer maybe to Lamar and Burrow than a lot of people think from last year. Like I thought he could have been top 5 on MVP ballots last year, even as a rookie, by how much he contributed. Now, all of your points, I think, are totally right. Those 4th downs, those 4th quarters, the big plays.
Unreal.
I don't think that's sustainable, but it was sustainable throughout the season. I don't think it was sustainable throughout the season last year either. I am still worried about so much of his value is in his scrambling and his legs. And he's just such a small dude, slight frame. How long is that going to hold up? One big hit, what's that do to him?
And he missed the game last year because of those kinds of hits.
Yeah. Yeah, he said, I mean, it's always going to be a problem. And I think even his long-term career, it makes me, I don't see Jayden Daniels playing till age 38 or 42, like that's not the sort of style that holds up. There's a lot to like here, though. He was top 5 by PFF passer grade as a rookie. He had a 1.5% turnover-worthy pass. That's a crazy low number. He had an elite fumble grade, which is amazing considering how much he's constantly scrambling, constantly under pressure. He was under pressure, the number 3 quarterback by PFF. That's for a rookie. Like, that's ahead of 2 of those guys we just said above, that he's in that mix of dudes. So I feel like 7 is almost a compromise here. Like, this could look dumb in either direction, if we're being honest. He could end up back down to 15, and it's like, okay, let's give him some time. Let's see where it goes. But he could be in that top 5. Maybe he's the guy that's going to rise up above the mix.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to label you as dumb, but I think the one thing I would say is there are some people who may say that they feel that not dumb, but just don't necessarily agree with the ranking. And that's specifically about Jordan Love. And I want to bring that up because the top 5 quarterbacks that you ranked all came from the AFC. Jordan Love, by your rankings, is the top ranked NFC quarterback. And, you know, coming into last season, you had him at 5th, coming off a great playoff run, kicked the shit out of the Cowboys. The arrow's only pointing up. And last year, it just didn't come together. I don't want to say he regressed, but it just wasn't there with what we saw the year before. So why do you believe in Jordan Love as being the top ranked quarterback in the NFC?
Yeah, it's tough because you got to really parse a lot of context here. We have 2 years now of Jordan Love starting the NFL. And basically what we have is half of a year of not great football and then half a year of really good football. So we did that both seasons, started out bad for half of the year, ended out pretty well. There's the whole like Toyotathon Jordan Love thing based on like how the timing is lined up. But I think if you think about how this career has played out so far, the context makes sense. Okay, you're brand new. He was very raw. I was not high on him coming out of college. I know he waited a few years for his shot. It's going to take some games starting out. I was not high on him. I'd have to look back and see, but I would guess I had him like 25th or something coming into his starting year. And he looked it. He was not good coming out. And then second half of the season, I thought he played MVP football. He had a huge leap. The numbers were awesome. 2023 from week 8 forward, he had a 90 PFF grade. He had 27 big time throws. He was 6-2 with 18 touchdowns and 1 interception. He was great in the playoffs, like you mentioned. Okay, so we're hype. I have him number 5 for last year. Don't forget, he plays in the first game of the season on an ice rink in Brazil, and he gets hurt. I thought he was done for the season based on what we saw in that game. He wasn't. He missed a few games. The Malik Willis kind of saves the Packers season and maybe makes you question, okay, how much is just this Matt LaFleur? And is that the Packers thing here? And we don't know. We don't know the answer to that. But he didn't play well then after coming back from that for kind of half the year before rounding into shape. Okay, well, is he just hurt? Like, we kind of thought that he was going to miss months of time or a whole season, and he comes back by like week 4 and 5 is playing already. He's still last year ranked top 3 in lowest pressure to sack rate. That's amazing for a guy that's playing on an ankle leg that we thought was going to be out for the year. Now, I love him escaping. He's not producing out of pocket. He was 29th EPA per play on out of pocket. So you're escaping, but now you're making a lot of mistakes and bad plays. We like the upside and the Mahomes type stuff when it goes well. There's a lot of criticisms that you can lobby at my love ranking here. It's very much a projection. The reality is I have 1 good year of Jordan Love. I have 1 good year of Jane Daniels. I just am willing to take a risk on these 3 guys with Herbert. I think those guys, if I'm right, can be in that top tier and go win me a Super Bowl. I think everybody else below, I need a lot of other help. So that's why those 3 made into the mixes. I'll take a shot. I want upside. I think these 3 guys give me a shot with their talent to go win me a Super Bowl if I need them to.
I think my biggest takeaway is just that the Packers have a horseshoe up their ass. The fact that they've had probably a top 5 quarterback for 3 straight decades, right? Like, it's just been, I mean, obviously it's good. And it's great from an evaluation standpoint, but man, like, if I ever hear a Packers fan complain about their quarterback situation, like, I'm just going to dismiss them immediately. All right, let's now move to tier 4 because you have labeled this as the litmus tests. So number 8, you have Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. You have number 9, you have Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 10, Geno Smith now with the Las Vegas Raiders. And then, of course, at 11, you have CJ Stroud just outside the top 10 now, entering his 3rd year. Let's start with just the tier name because I know this is a tier you pretty much always have, in in the 8 to 12 range. So just can you define for us what you mean by the litmus tests?
Yeah, so to me, these are the quarterbacks that can be great, can play like a top 5 guy in the right system, in the right setting, with protection, with play calling, with weapons. They can look great. Dak Prescott looked like an MVP, legit candidate 2 years ago. Last year, didn't have as much help, no run game, bad blocking, not a lot of receiving depth. Did not look like an MVP candidate last year.
No.
Jalen Hurts gets a whole lot of help. Amazing receivers, running back, great blocking, great play calling, looks incredible, but we've only seen him in that setting. What if he didn't have all of that help? Matt Ryan, back in the day when he won his MVP, is a great example of a litmus test quarterback. When he has Kyle Shanahan calling the plays and Julio Jones catching the ball, he's an MVP. But then when you take those things away, he's Matt Ryan. So this is the group that, like, for years, Kirk Cousins was in, that Derek Carr often was in, Ryan Tannehill, guys that if you get, and they're in the bottom of this group usually, but the guys that fit the surroundings, what you see in the team is what you're going to get out of the quarterback. And there are limitations there. You're outside our top 7 now, but you can be a darn good quarterback if things are right.
So I want to talk about Jalen Hurts a little bit more so than Dak, because Dak, I feel like we have quite a bit of data sample size, and just more of it's at this point, it's just how do you perform in the playoffs. So I think we have a pretty good idea of the floor that he brings from a regular season standpoint. But Jalen Hurts, I think you and I both have a ton of Eagles fans in our lives, and I think they get the most pissed when we start to talk about Jalen Hurts ranking, because most of Eagles fans will say he's either 4 spots too low or he should be like number 1. And, he's coming off a Super Bowl championship, 2 Super Bowl appearances in the last 3 years. How difficult is it to rank a Super Bowl champion from a quarterback ranking standpoint, especially given how great they looked in that final game last year?
Yeah, I honestly think among these top quarterbacks, Hurts is the one guy I keep sliding around the most. Like he's a hard one for me to place exactly in these spots. I think I've had him as high as 4 or 5 one year. I think he played as well as 4th or 5th, even better in his one near MVP season. I've had him down outside of my top 10. He's moved around a lot. It's hard because the dude just won a Super Bowl. And frankly, we've seen him play now in 2 Super Bowls, lights out football, maybe outplay Patrick Mahomes in those 2 games. You can't ignore that, but you also can't ignore he didn't really play that great of football before the Super Bowl. And you got to get to the Super Bowl, and that part matters too. If you look at the last 4 years of playoff data, Hurts is 12th in EPA plus completion over expected. It's not that great. He's 17th in success rate. Like, these aren't terrible numbers, but they're certainly not elite quarterback numbers. And I guess the question I would ask an Eagles fan is, if you have the best running back in football, 2 elite receivers, by far the best line in football, elite play calling, and an elite defense, why isn't Jalen Hurts and this offense just murdering everyone? The Eagles' passing attack was the weak point of the team last year. When the team struggled at times for parts of games or otherwise, it was the passing. It was the lack of Hurts being able to pass like a top-tier quarterback. That's the reason. If you gave this team Burrow or Lamar or Patrick or Josh, I think they'd just be slaughtering everyone. That's not how this goes. So I think that matters. That's the context. Hurts, particularly under pressure, is really a bad quarterback. Under pressure, PFF grade of 40. Just passing sub 30 on those, that's out of 100. So that's a really bad grade. He has one of the longest time to throw in the league. He invites a lot of the pressure. Now, he's not getting a lot because the line is so good, but even so, he gets pressured on 40% of his snaps, most in the league. And he's as good as Allen is in the pocket when he's clean, but out of the pocket, he's 26th in EPA per play. A bad quarterback, and he gets out of the pocket 24% of the time, one of the highest of any quarterbacks. So if you can get to him a little bit, he's not a great quarterback. He might not even be a good quarterback. The problem is it's the Eagles line and all those receivers, so they don't get to him very often. And if they do, just chuck it up to A.J. Brown or Devontae, and they'll probably just catch it anyway. This, to me, is maybe the quarterback that's the hardest to take the team context out of. That's my best opportunity at it. Hurts just inside the top 10, and I think definitively in this litmus test group is where he belongs.
Oh, if you talk to an Eagles fan, they'd have Tyler McKee probably right now in the same range right now. Because even Tyler McKee in that preseason appearance just in the first game looked pretty good. And part of it is product of their environment, product of the system that they're playing in. I don't want to say that Jalen Hurts is a system quarterback. If anything, he is more like James Harden, kind of like he is the system kind of thing. But at the same time, I think there's quite a large amount of people who would say that Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott. I'm not sure if I'm ready to go there, but yeah, make the case. Do you think Dak Prescott is significantly better than Jalen Hurts, or do you think like it could be interchangeable?
Yeah, I mean, they're back to back here in the same tier, so pretty interchangeable. To me, the Dak Prescott, for a bit there, I wanted him to be like a couple spots up a couple of years ago, just above this litmus test group. I think to me, he's kind of the preeminent litmus test guy. We see that when things are good in Dallas, he's a big part of the reason why. And we see, frankly, when things are bad, I think he's a big part of the reason why for that too, kind of in a good way, because he has the arm and the ability to take some shots and take some chances and make things even worse, where like, I'm kind of fine with that. I don't really need like Jared Goff or Tua just checking it down and doing nothing for my team. I want at least a chance to win. I'd rather Dak make some mistakes and look terrible like he did at times last year. And he looked awful at times last year, as you know. Tons of turnovers, just lots of mistakes. For his career, he's never had a losing record in a season where he didn't miss a big chunk of games. He's averaged a 10.6 win pace for his career. Then you get to the playoffs. I have nothing to say about his playoffs. He hasn't done it there. He's 2-5 in the playoffs. He has a bunch of pretty bad games. He had one good game really in the playoffs for his career. I think this is the range for him. If you give him the right stuff around him, he's going to look really good. If you take it away, he's going to look bad. And that's kind of the Dak Prescott conversation.
All right, so Geno Smith and CJ Stroud. You have Geno at 10th, CJ Stroud at 11th. You might be the highest as far as a ranking is concerned. Like, I think you're more on the Geno Smith camp than a lot of people who do the rankings here. Can we quickly explain why do we have Geno Smith and Stroud in the litmus test range?
So Geno by PFF grade, the last 3 years, this might be surprising. So I have him at 10th here. By PFF grade, he ranked 9th last year, 14th, 9th, so 3 years in a row. So he's right in that range. He's been a starter 5 seasons in his career, not just in Seattle. He's finished 500 or better for the 5 seasons. The dude wins football games. I think he is a top 3 accurate quarterback in the NFL. I think he is a top 3 deep ball in the NFL. Last year and in recent years, he's just getting crushed by terrible blocking. I think, frankly, we'll get to this name a lot later. I think Sam Darnold this year is going to show us just how good Geno Smith was last year. I think Smith's been nuked a little bit by bad protection, by bad play calling. I like him a lot in this mix. Stroud, frankly, this is slightly optimistic for him based on the numbers we've seen over 2 years now. I think this is a slightly kind ranking for him, but there's a lot to like there. It's only 2 years in. I don't know if I see CJ Stroud long-term escaping this tier. I think that I'm starting to adjust the ceiling slightly down. I don't know that he's ever going to be in that top 4 group. Maybe he gets to like the 5 to 7 sort of range. I think I'm slightly down, just big picture on the upper ceiling there, but certainly a good quarterback and, great in the playoffs last year. Lots to like there.
Yeah, and I think when we eventually do our skill position group rankings, the Texans are going to be probably in the bottom half for me, just given, and I think that might have played a little bit of a part in his efficiency last year as well. Nico Collins missing some time, Stephon Diggs out for the year, Tank Dell gets hurt late in the year as well. So just a lot of turnover from a receiver standpoint. And maybe that might, if he's actually getting some consistent play where Nico does play, a full 17 games, maybe that might give him a little bit of a boost here. But you're right. Probably the ceiling for him is probably 4th or 5th in the NFL. Football season is here, folks, and we've got some huge improvements and updates coming on the award-winning Action Network app, which we're very excited to discuss in the weeks ahead. But to get the most out of the app, you still need to be an Action Pro subscriber. And it's only with Action Pro that you get real-time pick alerts from our Action Network experts like myself, Brandon Anderson, Nick Giffen, Sean Kerner, Chris Raybon, the whole crew of experts. Plus, you can access pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team, and a lot of other benefits as well, prop projections, pricing, stuff like that. And right now, Action Network podcast listeners, you can save $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. All you got to do Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro, use code POD20. That's POD20. That's actionnetwork.com/pro and use code POD20 for $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. All right, Brandon, let's move now to the tier 5. This is the upside swings. At 12, you have Drake May, New England Patriots quarterback. At 13, you have Trevor Lawrence with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And at 14, you have Matthew Stafford. Now, I agree probably with most of the rankings you have here. I'm not sure I'm there yet on Drake May. Make your case.
Yeah, I'm just very, very high long-term on him. I was honestly tempted to put him all the way into that 5 to 7 tier with Herbert, Daniels, and Love. I think by the end of the season, I think he may get there. It is too soon, though. We've only seen not even a full season yet. But to me, he has all the physical tools like Herbert. But I think he actually plays like, in some ways, like 10% dumber than Herbert. Like Herbert takes so few chances. Drake has been aggressive. He plays loose. He's been already really good as a scrambler, designed and out of the pocket. He had a horrible team context last year. Terrible blocking, no weapons. He was responsible for only 9% of the sacks he took by FTN last year. So he's in this terrible spot for a rookie with a coach that gets fired, with no blocking, with everything bad around him, and still showed so many flashes. To me, I think he is this year's high riser. So this is me trying to get ahead of that a little bit. I absolutely expect him a top 10 quarterback by the end of the season. I know I'm high on him, but I think Drake May is the guy to take a big leap this year.
Okay, Matt Stafford, though, this is one that I'm just kind of a little unsure of whether or not he's too high or too low, especially given the fact that he had just had an epidural, a large needle stuck in his back for a back issue. And it's not like he's a young cat anymore, and he's taken a lot of hits. How did you take that information in context of how you ranked him? And because I feel like when he's on, he's definitely a top 10 quarterback, but again, takes a lot of hits. Just talk to me about Stafford here.
Yeah, I've never really been a huge Stafford guy. For some reason, with him in particular, it feels like the conversation with Stafford really focuses on that 1 month he has where he's like legitimately a top 5 quarterback, as good as anybody. And he's done that in the playoffs. Pretty important month to be a top 5 quarterback. The playoff numbers are incredible, but all the rest counts too. I need a quarterback for a whole season. And there are a lot of bad moments and a lot of inconsistencies here. Over the last 3 years, Stafford ranks 20th in EPA per play, 28th in completion over expected, 14th success rate. These are not elite quarterback numbers. They're not even close to elite quarterback numbers. He's a guy I see at like 5th or 6th in a lot of these QB rankings. I just can't get there over a full season because we're going to get the high sometime for like 3, 4, 5 games. And we're going to get all the rest too. By PFF grade, he's had only 2 seasons ever where he finishes a top 8 quarterback. He had 11 other seasons where he was somewhere from 9th to 21st, including last year, he was rated 21, 1 spot ahead of Bryce Young. That's where Matt Stafford was last year. He's terrible under pressure, so we depend a lot on that. And on all top of that, there's like a real chance, I think, that he might just not play in the NFL again. Like at any moment, including now, we might never see Matthew Stafford play in the NFL. I have to factor that in. I need a quarterback to play 17 games and then 3 or 4 more after that. And I need him to hold up. We're 1 hit away or maybe 1 more giant shot away from it just not happening here. So to me, I don't see enough upside consistency wise to take the swing. And there's a ton of downside here. So it just kind of becomes a wild card for me in the middle of the rankings.
Okay. So Stafford, we'll leave him off here to the side, but Trevor Lawrence, when are we just going to give up on this idea that it's going to be his breakout year? Because I don't see it. And I know that there was a lot of time coming into the year or coming into his draft, like where he was touted as the next one, like, best prospect since Andrew Luck, that kind of stuff. What do we do with Trevor Lawrence here?
Yeah, I think it's a big season for him. This is a bet on Liam Cohen, ranking him this high, quite frankly. The new coach, finding the best there. He really has had a rough go of it so far. We kind of forget. Trevor Lawrence is only 25 years old right now. He's had 4 years, one of them completely lost year with Urban Meyer. Then he's 9-8 and 8-8. Not star, but it's fine. It's pretty good for a sophomore and a junior quarterback. Then last year he's terrible again, but he was hurt a lot of the season. That's it. That's all the data we have. So we have a hurt year, we have an Urban Meyer year, and we have 2 kind of okay years with Trevor Lawrence. I think this should be his best year. We need to see it at some point. He's kind of reaching Justin Herbert last year status of like, okay, arm strength, potential, all the stuff we think we're seeing on film. Do the thing sometime. It's time to do the thing, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I just still think he can, but we got to see it this year with Liam Cohen.
And I think Lawrence, in order to feel like the prophecy is coming true, is you have to be able to elevate yourself above those situations. Like if, like some other, like Joe Burrow succeeds despite Zach Taylor, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So that's enough about Trevor Lawrence from a number one overall standpoint, because we now have three more guys who all went number one overall coming up now in tier 6. These are all former number one overall picks, all former Oklahoma Sooners as well. At 15, we have Baker Mayfield, 16, Kyler Murray, 17, Caleb Williams. Baker's an interesting case because, again, he's one of 3 quarterbacks last year that had 40 or more passing touchdowns. The other 2 were Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. But we have him down here in the 15th range, not in that upper tier. So what makes Baker or even like Kyler Murray such wild cards for you?
Yeah, I think you can make a case for Baker to be a top 10 quarterback. He certainly was last season. I think we underrate maybe just how good of a context he's played in. He's had really good blocking. He's had elite receivers in Tampa, and he's had great play calling, although it's changed in the recent years. But Dave Canales and then Liam Cohen both went on to head coaching jobs. Now, did they elevate Baker or did he elevate them? We don't really know. That's the context question again. But I think he's been in a really good spot. But despite that, lots of mistakes still. 25% pressure to sack rate is the second worst starter behind Caleb Williams, who's also in this tier. He's had, for his career, 7% sack rate almost, 2.7% interception. That's a really high number. Too many mistakes. 44% success rate is too low. It's too many highs and lows here. So in a lot of ways, some of the stuff I said about Stafford, the highs look really good. I think that I need to see it. If he does it again this year in a third new system for a third new offensive coordinator, I think he has to be firmly a top 10 quarterback after that. And maybe he should be already. He's someone that I would maybe quickly adjust up if things look good right away. Kyler, I just remember last year, like some game around week 10, somewhere in there, I remember just watching, I'm sure I was betting on the Cardinals, and I just was like, nah, I'm out. No, it's not happening. I can't handle with this, like this tiny little guy out there scrambling around, running 30 yards backwards, chuck it down. I just don't see it. Like, I don't know if I believe anymore. And frankly, although he was healthy last year, he missed 18 games the previous 3 seasons. That's an entire season of the 3 seasons that he didn't play. That size just isn't happening for him. I mean, obviously he's not going to grow, so it's causing him to miss games. And I think it's causing him to not be able to access middle of the field. He's really limited against pressure. It just hasn't really worked great for him. And what's interesting about Caleb Williams is I actually had as a scout for him, maybe he's Kyler Murray. Now here they are back to back in the rankings. I think, frankly, ranking Caleb Williams 17th league average is very kind. It is very much a projection of, okay, Ben Johnson, do the thing, make a quarterback out of him. I think this ends up 7 spots, too high or too low. Right now, he would be much lower until we get to the Ben Johnson thing. But I think Caleb Williams either dies a hero or holds the ball long enough to become the villain. And we need to see, can Ben Johnson coax some Jared Goff out of Caleb Williams, but still let the big plays happen? I think that's one of the fun storylines. That here in Chicago area, that's definitely what we'll be watching here this year.
Yeah, if I had to project, I think Caleb Williams is probably going to be, if we're doing this exercise again, going into the 2026 season, I think he has the most upside to see a large rise in this, just given that the quarterback situation historically in Chicago has always been terrible. And now you have a Ben Johnson type of play caller. So at 17, it might be a little generous given how bad it was, but I think this is the right mark here for that. The Ultimate 2025 Fantasy Football Draft Kit is here. Sean Kerner and Chris Raybon have their rankings, tiers, cheat sheets, and more to help you navigate your fantasy football drafts. New subscribers to Fantasy Labs NFL can use code FLEX20 for $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. That's $20 off with code FLEX20 at fantasylabs.com/flex. All right, Brandon, we're going to move now to our 18th ranked quarterback. And from 18 to 22 is in this next tier. This is their 7th tier, and it's the system, stupid. So number 18, We have Brock Purdy with the San Francisco 49ers. Number 19, Jared Goff. Number 20, Aaron Rodgers. 21, Bo Nix with the Denver Broncos. And number 22, Tua Tagovailoa with the Miami Dolphins. Now, this is another one where I think the tier name is important. What's the system like? Why do you have these guys grouped together?
Yeah, the system is what's making these guys look so good. The system is why you at home listening are like, what? Jared Goff, 19th, you're crazy. He was a top 5 quarterback last year. What? Brock Purdy, he was an MVP candidate 2 years ago. Yeah, he was an MVP candidate, as Goff was supposedly last year, in the system, playing for Kyle Shanahan, playing for Ben Johnson, playing for Mike McDaniel. If you're Tua, the system is what is elevating these guys. And it's interesting, we're not getting as many now like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carrs of the world, where it's just like, okay, you, sir, are an average NFL quarterback. Like we all knew for years, that's what those guys are. Now we're getting these system guys. But to me, if you are Ben Johnson, you are getting the best you can out of Jared Goff until you get a Caleb Williams or until you get a star quarterback. Look, we saw with the Rams, Sean McVay get good things out of Jared Goff until he had a chance to go get Matthew Stafford and get the upside, get the guy that can go, I talked about in the Herbert, Love, Daniels group. Can you go win me a game? This group to me is, I can win with you, but I can't win because of you. I might not lose because of you. That's what these coaches are elite at eliminating. They're taking out the mistakes, but you can't go win me the game necessarily. Now, I think Brock Purdy is getting close to earning his way out of this conversation. I was really impressed with what he did last year, even though he finally lost a lot of the help that he'd been getting. The blocking was bad. The receivers are all hurt. McCaffrey's out. He played pretty well. He made some plays. I thought he actually is earning his way maybe up into that like 12, 15 range, even top 10. I listened to a case on Brock Purdy. What's interesting with all like 4 of the guys in this tier, most quarterbacks in the NFL have a good EPA per play in the pocket, but if you're an elite quarterback, once you're out of the pocket, you are lethal. Like Josh Allen is like 0.36 EPA per play, just going to shred you. If you let him get out of the pocket, he's going to tear you apart. These guys are the opposite. Brock Purdy in the pocket, 0.27 EPA per play. That's MVP football. If he's protected and Shanahan's play is running, he's going to shred you, regular season or postseason. But get him out of the pocket, that number drops for Brock Purdy. For star quarterbacks, it goes up. His number goes down. Now, Jared Goff and Tua Tagovailoa, their number goes negative on those plays. So they have an even bigger drop off here. And we've seen it like with Goff. You get to an outdoor game, you get to a weather game, frankly, you get to a playoff game. I think they were still treating Jared Goff kind of like we saw Daniel Jones in the playoffs a couple years ago, kind of with kid gloves. Hey, Jared, just try not to lose this one for us, buddy. We got a really good team. Amon-Ra, he'll win it for us. Jahmyr Gibbs, he'll go make a play. Just don't lose it for us. Could you handle that? And, the defense lost for them. So it wasn't really Jared Goff's fault last year. But to me, Purdy's close to saying, I think he's flashing now. I can go win some of these games. Jared Goff, when he hasn't had McVay or Ben Johnson, he was 0-7 without McVay as a Ram, 3-10-1 without Ben Johnson in Detroit. That's not a lot of sample, but if he does the thing this year with all the coaching changes, I'm going to have to respect it a little bit more. That was my number 1 quarterback situation for Detroit. But now Ben Johnson is gone. Frank Ragnow, the stud center, is gone. I just feel like these guys, you're limited a little bit. They can do great things with great coaching. It's, again, kind of that litmus tier group, but you're even more limited because you can't go make that big throw. And I think the coaches, frankly, know that with how they call the plays.
Right. And this is like that tier that we say, like, everything needs to go right. And when it is right, it looks awesome. The trio, though, of Aaron Rodgers, Bo Nix, Tua. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but just how do we feel about those rankings between 20 and 22?
I honestly have no idea where to put Aaron Rodgers. Like you could throw the dart somewhere on the board. I can't bring myself to put him outside the top 20 or frankly below Bo Nix. So that's where he is right at
Well, I mean,
number 20.
you had him off an Achilles injury. You had him fourth last year. So I think you have a very high opinion of how Aaron Rodgers is as a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean Rodgers was my last number 1 before Patrick Mahomes. So that's the previous guy there, and he was top 3 for me basically forever. So I took a shot last year. It did not go well for me. It was my MVP bad. I bet on the Jets. It was very bad. I was very wrong. I think it might be over for Aaron Rodgers. He maybe should be 5-10 spots below this. And frankly, given all the Aaron Rodgers stuff, all the locker room stuff, given if this is the upside, if the upside is gone now, I don't know if you need the downside stuff. Bo Nix, frankly, I was very out on him coming into last year. He had a great rookie season. For a rookie to come in and be that accurate, to be able to handle that situation, I think really proved that I was too low on his floor last year. I think his floor has shown competent quarterback play in this sort of game manager group. I think he can play point guard for the right team. Like Tua's right below him. If you put Bo Nix in on that offense, I think Nix would be awesome. Just running point, get the ball out fast, quick reads. He would do that incredibly. Under pressure, the accuracy drops off. Doesn't have the arm talent or the zip, kind of like a Gardner Minshew, but without the mustache, maybe. Like, yeah, I know. That's how I feel about Bo Nix. So I know a lot of people are high on him, have him maybe like 5 to 8 spots higher as a young guy. I can't quite get that excited. Tua, I just think we're kind of at fake quarterback range. Like the time to throw is impossibly low. His air yards are impossibly low. It just is this gimmick system, and he's able to do it, but not against good defenses, not in bad weather. And also, by the way, he's one hit at any time for the rest of his life away from retirement. And I have to factor that in. I want Tua to be safe, but I want a quarterback to win me games. So I have to give him some credit. Like all of these guys outside of Rodgers, they're Tua, Goff, and Purdy, you're going to look at like their EPAs and their success rates, and they're going to be top 5. They're going to be amazing. So is Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's out of a job right now because once you take him out of the system, you take him out of the stuff that made him look good, and that's just where I'm at on these guys.
All right. What 3 guys that I don't know really where we're at on them, but we have to put them somewhere. This is tier 8. This is aptly called We Just Don't Know Yet. So at 23, we have JJ McCarthy with the Minnesota Vikings, 24, Cam Ward with the Tennessee Titans, and 25, Michael Penix Jr. with the Atlanta Falcons. What we've seen, I mean, Michael Penix probably has the most NFL experience of the 3. How do you rank those guys coming into the year?
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. If you think you know, you don't know. We've seen these guys play in a combined 5 NFL games ever, counting preseason. Because remember, we had to hold out Michael Penix last year to protect him for some reason, and JJ McCarthy got hurt his first preseason game. So by the end of the weekend, by the time you listen to this, we will have seen this go from 5 to 8 preseason games. We're going to almost double our data of what we know about these. We don't know yet. So frankly, I just have them ranked in the order of how I had them scouted coming out of college. And I guess just want to say, I think people might be a little too confident on Michael Penix based on 3 games against pretty rough defenses. I know the deep ball down the sideline, chef's kiss. Like, just looks so good, but he's older. He's 25 already. He has a long injury history, and his accuracy is really bad all over the place. Was in college, was again last year. Incredible outside the numbers, but I think there could be a very inconsistent factor about him that I think folks maybe are a little bit too confident on him with the Falcons this year. Reminds me of a mistake I made a couple years ago where I was like, Falcons, lots of talent, love the coaching, easy schedule. What, Desmond Ridder? He'll be fine. They'll win all the games. No, they did not win all the games. Desmond Ridder was not a good quarterback. I don't know if Penix is Desmond Ridder, but he does matter. He's got to do the stuff, and I'm not sure we know that he can yet.
Okay. Now, those are the ones we don't know about. Let's talk about the ones that are at the bottom tier that we do know about. And this is tier 9. We're going to start at 26. We've got Anthony Richardson with the Indianapolis Colts. Number 27, we have Russell Wilson now with the New York Giants. At 28, we have Sam Darnold moving on now to the Seattle Seahawks. 29th, Bryce Young with the Carolina Panthers. And number 30, Justin Fields with the New York Jets. I wanted to call this tier like Hello Darkness, my old friend, because it feels bleak. Like when you look at the fact that this was your starting quarterback for your team. Is there anyone in this group that we have some hope for? Maybe Sam Darnold in Seattle, maybe Bryce Young with the Panthers.
You know what's really funny is I think other than maybe Justin Fields, every time I look at ranking this group, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I have Darnold like 3 or 4 spots too low. Maybe I should move him up to that, the system group. I don't know. Bryce Young, he looked pretty good. Last 3 games of the season, he had great numbers. Maybe I should move him up. Like, you can talk yourselves into something with these guys. I have Anthony Richardson at the top of the group. He can't even finish a quarter of football right now. He gets hurt in the first preseason game. Looks fine, probably. I think he, by just what he's been, might be 32nd in the NFL. Like, he might be last. I'm not sure he's a quarterback at all, is what I would say about Justin Fields. I think he might be a runner and not a quarterback, but the upside is there. And this far down the list, I'd at least rather take a shot on it. I know you want me to defend the Sam Darnold thing because that was my guy last year.
As a Vikings fan, and just the swap with the fact that you have JJ McCarthy, who hasn't played a game yet, and you have him ranked higher than Sam Darnold, who had a career year last year.
Yeah, I think this is me maybe getting a little bit ahead of where I expect them to go this year. So McCarthy gets to go into maybe the best quarterback situation, at least certainly one of them, with great receivers, what looks like a good run game, pretty strong blocking, great defense, great play calling, all the stuff that made Sam Darnold look really good. But even when Sam Darnold looked really good, he still led the league in turnover-worthy passes with 27 last year. He still had one of the highest time to throw in the league. He still ranked 32nd EPA per play out of pocket. Geno Smith's numbers last year got really nuked in the pocket because there's no blocking in Seattle. So Sam Darnold at the end of the season suddenly wasn't getting blocking and looked horrendous for the last couple games we remember him. That was the system was there, but the blocking wasn't. Well, now he goes to Seattle where the blocking won't be there. He's going to be out of the pocket a lot more, and he's never been good under pressure in his career, including last year where the numbers still weren't that great. We got a lot of good games because I think the floor was high in the system group. If he were still in Minnesota, I'd probably put Sam Darnold like 20th or 22nd or somewhere in that group. So I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead here, penalizing him a little bit in advance for the Seattle play. And maybe that's, I'm projecting a bit. And again, try to take the context away and now I'm adding the context back in. I don't know. Maybe that's not fair. But I think Sam Darnold, to me, maybe showed his true colors at the end of the season. And maybe that's just unfair as a Vikings fan that was the last taste in my mouth.
Last 2. I'm not even sure these guys are going to be starters. This is your final tier. You've called it release the tank. At 31st, you have the Cleveland Browns situation. I'm calling it a situation. You have Dylan Gabriel listed. I'm not sure he's even going to be the starter. I think it'll probably end up being Joe Flacco. But you have, at last, New Orleans Saints, Tyler Shuck, who did sign a contract prior to the season once Derek Carr retired. I don't think we have to spend too much time on them. I just want to ask, how confident are you that either of these guys could be a starter in the NFL?
I'm confident about nothing about either of these names, teams, quarterback rooms, nothing about them. To me, this is this is who the team, these are the guys that I would expect the teams most prefer to be their quarterback this year. And here's why. Dylan Gabriel, 11% pressure to sack rate. That's a very good low number. 1.3% turnover worthy pass. Those are both elite metrics. That is, I don't make mistakes. To me, that is the Browns identifying, hey, you know what? We didn't get a top quarterback, but neither did the Broncos last year. And look what they did with Bo Nix. Could we eliminate the mistakes? There's a whole thing right now with Sean Payton, his fancy new metric to identify. His fancy metric is cutting mistakes out. Congratulations. You invented a mistake-free metric. It's pretty good, though. Don't get sacked. Don't turn it over. You're going to not hurt the team very much and see what we can do to raise the floor. Tyler Shuck, similarly, really good in those exact 2 metrics, pressure to sack and turnover worthy. He just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So to me, comparison, Joe Flacco and Spencer Rattler, they're mistake machines. Now, if I play fantasy football, I want Flacco and Rattler out there. Play quarterback. Throw the football down the field. Actually play football. I don't know if I'm going to get that ever, frankly, from Dylan Gabriel or Tyler Shuck. I don't know that that's ever happening. I'm not even sure that I feel great about them being like career backups necessarily. But If you want a career backup, it's a guy that doesn't make mistakes, doesn't turn it over, doesn't get sacked, can just be out there and not screw your team over. So that's about all I know about these 2. We'll see. Yeah, that's it. I have no idea who starts in these teams or which order they should be in, but they're definitely the last two.
I'll just say this. I feel like we spent way too much time even just talking about the Saints right now and the Browns, who are both projected for like worst record in the NFL. You could have told me you made up those two names, and I would have been like, oh yeah, you're right. All right, let's recap the top 10 of the rankings of quarterbacks, and then we'll do a couple takeaways, and then we'll get out of here. So the top 10, how you rank them? You have Patrick Mahomes at number 1. Josh Allen, number 2, Joe Burrow, 3rd, Lamar Jackson at 4th, Justin Herbert at 5th, Jordan Love at 6th, Jaden Daniels at 7th, Dak Prescott at 8th, Jalen Hurts at 9th, and Geno Smith at 10. So before we get out of here, what is like a key takeaway from you based on these rankings, based on what you saw in the research and the deep dive? What's a big key takeaway that you found when doing this rankings this year?
Yeah, I've got 5 takeaways. We'll just lightning round through them and get you out of here. Number 1, the times are a-changing. 3 years ago in these rankings, top 5, Rodgers, Brady, Russell Wilson. Top 15, Cousins, Carr, Ryan Tannehill. Josh Allen, number 7. Lamar Jackson, number 9. Okay, well, Lamar and Allen have MVPs now. The other 6 guys are either retired or probably should be real soon. So a lot is changing at quarterback. There's that void at the top that we talked about, that number 5 spot. Who is it? Who steps into that 5 to 7 range? Is it just next man up? Hurts, Herbert, Dak? Is it Daniels or Stroud, like the rising star we've already seen? Is it an unknown young guy? Is it Cam Ward? Is it Penix or McCarthy? Is it Caleb Williams? I think that shifting middle ground, who's going to step into that 5 to 7 range, I think is going to tell us a lot about what this NFL season looks like.
All right, so that's one. But what about like the fact that like the AFC like has the top 5 quarterbacks? I feel that that's just brutal, and maybe that opens up opportunity for the NFC.
Yeah, so my number 2 takeaway, number 2 and 3 we'll do together. So number 2, the AFC has the top 5 quarterbacks. This was a takeaway last year when I did the article. It's been a takeaway for a few. Why that matters is because if you have an AFC sleeper you like, maybe like the Patriots, maybe like the Steelers, or maybe you want to give Tua another shot, or especially, I think, I'm going to call out the Broncos here. We talked about Bo Nix. I have the other 3 quarterbacks in his division all in my top 10. This is a big ask. If there's 5 AFC quarterbacks, 1 to 5, there are 7 playoff spots. Let me help you with the math. That leaves 2. If those quarterbacks all make it, there's only 2 spots left. Now, I know Burrow didn't last year. He was hurt last year. I think that there's just not a lot of wiggle room. So be careful with your sleeper in the AFC. In the NFC, invest in your sleeper. The NFC is wide open. Who's the hot quarterback? And I think it's probably one of Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, maybe Matthew Stafford if he gets out there. One of those guys on a good team might end up the NFC 1 seed. And I think MVP is a team award. If you are in the AFC, you got to beat out all those other guys just to become like a 2 or 3 seed. In the NFC, that's the spot where you want your sleeper for MVP or even to make the Super Bowl. Which quarterback do you want to hit your wagon to this year? I think it's one of those 5.
All right, last one before we wrap up, because I want you to plant your flag. Because who's going to be this year's Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, the resurgence, the rehabilitation project? Which quarterback would you pick as somebody that could now jump in rankings just based on having a good year?
Yeah, it's crazy. Looking back at this article, Geno Smith in my opening day ranks 3 years ago, I had him literally dead last. 32 of 32. Here he is, number 10. That was a dude that I thought was a placeholder. Like, we were done. We moved on. It was over for Geno. Then the next year, Baker Mayfield, I had at number 31. Now he's at 15, and he'd be higher, I think, in a lot of rankings. A borderline 2 guys that are arguments for top 10 quarterback that we left for dead. We were like, no, didn't happen, not happening with Baker, not with Geno. So I think the obvious answer here will be Sam Darnold. He already rose from we saw last year. He was left for dead before that. Maybe one more year. Maybe he takes that second year step and proves it. I talked about why I don't think that will happen. It's hard to find another choice, though. Justin Fields is a possible obvious choice. I don't think Justin Fields is a quarterback. I think he's a running back. Daniel Jones, maybe he gets the shot in Indianapolis. Oh, I don't know. That kind of fits the profile here, but I can't get excited. I thought about trying to say, how about Jameis Winston with the Giants? Now, I don't know if he's going to get a shot, though. because Russ is going to start and Jackson Dart's going to play before too long. Jameis has had some highs. Like, could Jameis become a good quarterback still with a good coach there and offense? I could kind of see that one. I'm going to give you one name here. I'm going to plant a flag that I planted last year. How about Bryce Young? Could Bryce Young, could that late season resurgence, could he be continuing to step forward? And frankly, look at that division. Is there a world where Bryce Young is the best quarterback in that division this year? I think there is that world. It's not going to be the Saints in all likelihood. And if Penix has some foibles, like I think, and if Baker steps back without a good situation, with Wirfs hurt to start the year, Godwin hurt to start the year, no Liam Cohen, could Bryce Young, year 2 with Dave Canales, could he take a step forward? Maybe he's the guy that, frankly, the Panthers gave up on already. Maybe he proves himself to be that, like, in the middle of the league quarterback going forward. I don't know. Good luck choosing this year's Baker or Darnold, though.
I can't believe you were about to talk me into Panthers Island again, because I was in with you last year. I'll probably ride with you again this year if you dive into it a little bit more, and the odds are where we need it to be. All right, so that'll do it for today's episode of the Action Network podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Also, you'll hear more from us over the next 2 weeks. Brandon and I will have NFL rankings, as I said, for skill groups, coaching staffs, offensive lines, and more. Don't forget to leave a nice 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, download the free Action Network app. You could save $20 on an annual pro account by using pod20 at actionnetwork.com/pro. Also, check out the Action Network Discord. There's a link in the episode description of the podcast where you could join for free. So for Brandon Anderson, I'm Gilles Gallant. Thank you for listening to the Action Network podcast, and bon chance.